Okay, hello. I don't know exactly where I'm going to upload this. It might be my D&D channel, which is World Masons. It might be my personal channel. Either way, you can call me Joe. I'm Bearded JB on Twitch, if you ever catch me streaming, which is probably never. But today, I'm going to be showing you how to go from a brand new installation of tabletop, and just as a point of order, it's a 0.7.10 that I'm using because that's the most stable build as of recording this video. I'm going to show you how to go from this complete blank slate to having our objectives today, if I'm going to go all teacher on us, because I am a teacher in my real life. Our objectives are, we're going to install a game system, we're going to install a game world, we're going to set up a simple map. There's a lot more you can do with Foundry, but we're going to set up a really simple map. We're going to add a player, so your friends, one of your friends that are going to play with you. We're going to add a PC, a player character, so the character that player, your friend, will play. We're going to add an NPC, and then we're going to deal with encounters and rolling. Okay, now this is really simple. This is like, you've got a game coming up in a couple of days, you need to get going quick. Okay, I won't be going into any modules or add-on modules, which are honestly, those are what make this tool really, really, really powerful. It's powerful on its own, but just it's another level when you have all of the amazing community built add-on modules. This tutorial is to get you going from I know nothing, this is overwhelming, to I can get a map up and I can be ready to import my players into this software. As a side, again, I won't be explaining how to do port forwarding or getting your players onto the game. That is a sticky wicket. It took me, honestly, a long dawn tootin' time to get that figured out with my particular router and internet service provider. That is a journey you're going to have to go on your own and find some help. But before that, you will have everything ready for your players to get in and get involved right before you have to get them ported in. Okay, so starting with objective 1, installing a game system. So the normal way, and the way that I'm going to show you, okay, right now, is installing a game system. I will just literally say, click here, install system, and I will search for my system on the compendium here on this sort of database. I'm running D&D 5e, so I'm searching for 5e, and I want just vanilla 5e, okay? D&D 5e right there is the one that you want if you are running 5e, so I will install. 3.5e is 3.5e, pretty simple. If you're looking for Pathfinder, you might find it like this, okay? But I don't want any of those, I want 5e. I will install this like this. I will say 5e, made by this guy. Again, it's not made by Foundry. Anything that goes wrong with this system is not Foundry's fault. These people spend a lot of time making amazing systems, modules for Foundry, and it's frankly amazing. Okay, if you want to go to the GitLab or the repository for this, find out more information, there you are. Submit a bug or anything like that, that's how you do it. So I've clicked install and it's installing down here. Now you might see this manifest URL. So if there's a game system that you don't have, you can't find it on here. So for example, I'll type in Star Wars 5e. No, I can't find that. Okay, well, I'm running a one-shot and I can't find my Star Wars 5e. I can see there's Star Trek, Star Wars Without Numbers, Star Wars FFG system, but not Star Wars 5e. It's an unofficial piece of content that someone's made to convert Star Wars into a 5e adventure. And frankly, it's amazing. LucasArts, don't shut it down, okay? But I would just go, I would suggest Googling something like Star Wars 5e Foundry VTT manifest. Or something like that, okay? Then I would go and I'd grab the .json. So let me see if I've got this here with me. So let me add a, yeah. So what I've got here is here is my Star Wars 5e package. I'll go down here to the JSON, add this. I'll just copy that in. Get rid of that. And I'll put this down here. Okay. And then when I want to install it, I'll click install, and it's exactly the same. It will install like this. Okay. So now we've got the system that we want to use. This tutorial will be about D&D 5e, not about Star Wars 5e. That is a different system. If for whatever reason anyone's watched this and they want me to explain the Star Wars 5e, then I will. Now we've got our game system. We're not going to talk about add-on modules. This is not what this video is about. This is about using vanilla Foundry. Game worlds. Now we need to start our world, the world that we are going to be playing in. I just clicked install world there because some worlds, actually you can just drag and drop. You can just say, okay, this is a world that someone's built using a game system, and it has everything that you need, including maps, things like that. You can actually download whole worlds like this as well, using a manifest URL, just like the JSON that we used, okay, before. And JSON is just like, it's a whole bunch of data, information that it's like a URL that all that information is used to pull the installation data from somewhere on the internet. Okay, so you can do that there. I don't know how legal they are, if it's gray or if it's black and white, but there are like Tal'Dorei worlds that you can, and Wildmount worlds that you can just pull in, and they have sort of like player starting screens and maps already built out for you and NPCs and things like that. We're not going to do anything like that. We're going to be badass, and we're going to create our own world. So the world title, I'll call it My World. Yeah, I'll call it My World. And then you'll just, that's the data, so that's like your path in your file directory for Foundry, where it goes. And then you're going to choose the edition you are looking for. So I'm choosing D&D 5e because that's what I'm using for my main campaign. And a background image if you want. I don't have a background image. Let me actually just see if I do. No, those are my encounter images. I can select file. Oh no, I can't browse. So no, we won't do that. But you can select if you have in the correct path. If you save it in the correct path, you can upload it yourself. Right, and that will show on the next screen. You have a bit of information on the next session. This is redundant, really, for anybody that doesn't keep their server on all the time if it's not hosted, and you don't need to add anything there. And I'll just say this is going to be, oh my goodness, best campaign ever. Oh my lord. Put on the spot. Okay. So my world and the information. And then all you got to do is launch your world. This is where your picture and description will come up here. And to get in, you go Game Master. Your access key is blank because you haven't set one. And you will join your game session. Okay. You're in. You're inside the mainframe, Neo. Okay? For now, I want you to ignore everything. Just these things mean nothing to you right now. Okay? I don't want you to look at them. If you're looking at them, Papa's sad. Okay? On this side, the right side of the screen here, this is what's important. Okay? Let's have a look. We've got our chat log. This is what we use to chat and roll. Okay? So that's where chat. So if you're not using voice, maybe you're running a text-based role-playing campaign, not as popular, but absolutely a fine way to go. That's how you would communicate. You can also roll using that as well. I can't remember the default roll commands. Is it like that? Nope, that's Avray. So as a game master, I can delete that, but I don't know the default roles, but you'll be able to find them in the documentation for this. Okay. So left side of the screen, we've got our chat, we've got our combat tracker. Don't worry about this. We'll talk about that in section 7 of this when we look at encounters and rolling. The place that we want to be is the third tab over, and we're going to create a scene. So basically a scene is like a map. You can use scenes for other things, like as a opening scene, so like a opening screen for your players while they're waiting, or that you're role-playing and you're not actually in a battle map. So it's called scene and not map. But I'm going to create a scene. I'm going to call this scene my first scene. Okay? And you'd call that whatever it is. I would keep this pretty clear to you. So if if that didn't play with you, if you needed to say it was number 1, forest encounter, and that would make way more sense to you, name it that. Okay? I want to be clear because it's up at the top here, and if you're swapping in between a couple of them regularly, you want to know what they are on first glance. The only things you need to look at right now are details and dimension and grid configuration. Okay? Token visibility, uncheck that for now. We're not going to go into that, but it gets too confusing for new users of Foundry. It confused the hell out of me, so we're just going to uncheck that, but then ignore everything from there down. So, name, accessibility, GM only. That means you have control, and only you can assign this as the active scene. Navigation name, not super important. Okay? Background image. Now this is where you've made a map, either with a map tool like Dungeon Draft, like I use. Great paid tool that you can purchase. I would recommend. It's very cool. Or you've made it on Photoshop or GIMP, or you've just downloaded one from the internet, which is absolutely fine. New players should do that. Or you've got one you've scanned it in from your adventure book. That's fine as well. So I'm going to choose this. This Sith encounter is from my Star Wars one-shot that I'm running. So I will choose that file that I have already uploaded into my area. But if I didn't have that, I would choose file, and I would select the file that I wanted. Okay? Just using the normal Windows browser, find the file that you want. Okay? So I'll select file and I will upload it. Now, just before I do that, I've missed something. Width and height here. It will automatically assign the width and height for you. Okay? If you don't know it. But I know it, so I'm going to put it in as 2450 and 1400. Okay. Then what's my grid type? Obviously, self-explanatory, gridless, square, and hex. Now, we play with square in my party. I prefer hex. I think they look pretty, but players sometimes find it confusing. And I know because Dungeon Draft tells me that my grid PPI, and it might say that as well if you're using another type of map building tool, my grid PPI, which is pixels per inch, is 70. So I've got a grid type with a grid size of 70 pixels. Okay, and all of this you don't need to know particularly, you don't need to know anymore. If you're using a special system where each grid, normally one square, is 5 feet in D&D, if you're using a system where it's different, you just change that value there. It's 10 feet now. Okay, but we're going to keep it at 5. Grid color, self-explanatory. If you're on a really dark map, you might want to make the grid color white, but we'll keep it as black now for me. And grid opacity, self-explanatory. I don't need it to be very visible. Okay, so we're going to save changes, and that's going to load in my map with all of those things that I've just said it needs to be. This is saying I'm changing my underlying dimensions of this scene. So that means that whatever the default dimensions were originally in the scene, I'm changing them to 2450 to 1400. Absolutely fine. I will change that. Okay. So I've changed that, but it's not brought in my map, which is fine. That can happen sometimes. It might be a bug. It might be the fact that you've just not clicked it properly. That's no problem. If you need to reconfigure anything, you go over to configure. You go back over to whatever you need to fix. If it's your grid color or grid size. For me, it's the fact that I didn't actually load in any map. I'm going to select the file and I'm going to save my changes like that. Now my file's in. You can see it sort of has a thumbnail here on your scene list, which is nice and useful. And we can zoom in using our scroll wheel, so it's just front and center. Okay, so I'm not going to go into any detail about walls and doors or anything like that. That's way beyond the scope of this video. But we've actually done objective 1, 2, and 3. We've installed the game system, we've installed the game world, and we've now set up a simple map. We've got our grid size, which is correct. We've got our map in, and all of the other things that we need are set up. So now let's go on to adding a player. Okay. So the next one along from scenes is adding is your actors directory. This will be really explanatory in a minute, but first we're going to go right over to game settings and we're going to configure players. Okay, it's going to bring us to another screen, and you've got a game master, which is you. Fantastic. And you're going to create an additional user. Now my mate Sophie is going to be playing with me as well as Ben as well, so let's just add Ben. There are some more playing, but I'm not going to add everything here. Now, a quick note. I am no expert in security, IT security, or IT in general. I have a functional knowledge. I read a Reddit post made by an IT security guy posted on Foundry's Reddit. I'll see if I can link that below. I didn't really understand all of it, but what I got from it was use access keys. If you are letting people tunnel into your computer when you do port forwarding and all of that stuff, you want to add in an access key. Okay, it doesn't add that much security, but it's just that little extra layer. People might be able to just join your games without you wanting to, without you saying that they can, if you don't have an access key. Okay. For this, because I'm kind of just setting it up, I'm not going to add an access key. Okay, but I recommend everybody does, and I'll see if I can link that below. Moving on, I've now added my friend Sophie, my friend Ben, and I've got myself as Game Master. I normally just change this to GM, and I'll add my name like that. No problem. My user role is Game Master, as it should be, and then your players, there are several different things you can choose from. Game Master and Assistant are basically the same thing. Game Master is who owns, like the Foundry, like owns the world that you're in. They made it. Assistant has almost all, I think it might be even all of the permissions that a Game Master does. So if you're co-game mastering, or if you're streaming, maybe you've got a Game Master and somebody who's dealing with the stream and any sort of mechanical stuff. And then players and trusted player. So let's have a look at what they actually do. So if you're playing with webcam and audio, trusted players can use that. They can create journal journal entries. They can configure tokens. Tokens are like icons or like your, tokens that you move around. They can do a whole bunch of stuff that a normal player cannot do. So when I'm playing with friends, they almost always have a trusted. Okay. However, I will say one thing. My friends that I play with are chaotic. They are all aligned chaotic. So I often take away their drawing tool permissions because I added that one time. I'm like, hey, how come no one's drawing like you're describing these things to me? Draw on the map. Let me see. They did, and it was all dicks. So I just I used the banhammer came out. Okay, now we've got that. We've set up our players. Okay, boom. Save and return. Let's re-log in as... Actually, let's log in as Ben. Let's say we're Ben. We'll type in our access key if we have one, and we'll join the session. Okay, player avatar is default. Player color is green, but if let's say I wanted it to be blue, I can change it to blue, save configuration, and that blue sort of shows up down here. Okay, and that shows who's connected. So as Ben, I can see a lot of the different things up here that I could see before, but I'm missing some options because I'm just a player. Okay. All right, let's log out and rejoin as Game Master. So we've added a player. So now let's add a PC. Let's add a player character. Okay, let's get them playing the game. So, two ways you can do this. Okay, if you've if you don't have any saved characters on Foundry, or if you aren't using one of the default characters in Foundry, because there are default characters here. If you go over to the compendium, you can actually get starter heroes here. But if you're not using those, you'll need to add one manually. So let's create actor. And the actor is just really means an interactable token, an interactable object. So whether that's a player, a non-player, or a vehicle, it's whatever. Okay. So this character is going to be called, let's call him Fodrick. Yep, that's good for me. And he's going to be a player character. Now, Fodrick. Okay, you see we've got here a sheet. There are a couple of sheets, so I've just gone over here and I've pressed this cog sheet. This sheet is a default sheet, but there's also another one that you can use, which is that. It's slightly different, but it's not any different. It's no different. You can get add-ons that will change the way this looks to make it a little bit more traditional in its layout, or a little bit more user-friendly or anything. Okay, that's an add-on and I won't be going into that. This is just vanilla Foundry. Okay, so we know all these things. We can add all these things. So first thing that I would do is I would add in my stats. So Fodrick. You know what? We're not going to do that. I'm going to assume all of you are intelligent and you've been paying attention. What we're going to do is we're going to add classes to this guy, to Mr. Fodrick over here. So Mr. Fodrick, this imaginary person that we are playing, or that Ben will play, I'm going to say that he is a fighter. In order to make this guy a level 1 fighter, we've got to go over here to classes. We'll open up our classes tab. And we're going to say, hey, hey, hey. There's a fighter here. And what you have to do is drag it along and drag it into your player character box. That will make us a level 1 fighter. And you'll be able to see that some things have changed. In our class levels, we're level 1 fighter. And if we click this, it'll show us all the stuff that we will need as a fighter. Okay? So it's going to show us our proficiencies. So all armor, all shields, strength, and constitution. So we are proficient in strength and constitution. And any spell or effect would turn up here. If you got a default spell or something, would turn up there. But I never started level 1. I just don't. So also it's 1d10, yeah, so we get max 10. I never started level 1, I started level 2. So to level this guy up, I would just take fighter and drag and drop it one more time in there. Here's the thing. You cannot undo levels. It's kind of annoying, but it's the way that the system works. Maybe there'll be a mod or an improvement onto the 5e system. It's not a Foundry thing. It's a 5e system thing. Or maybe it's the way they interact. Maybe it's a bit of both. Okay? So be really careful when you're adding levels, because if you go too far, you have to delete the entire thing. If you add something, like if you add a feature here, if let's say you get a passive ability from a feat, you can take that away, no problemo. You can just delete it, okay? But if you add a level, you cannot undo that level. You have to restart. So I've got my level 2 fighter. We'll say that we rolled some dice. We rolled a hit dice for them, and we'll just say we got a 6. So now we have a max hit points of 16, and we're full health. Okay, and now from here we add in our attributes or attributes, depending on where you're from. So as a fighter, I'm just going to put in a standard array. So standard array is 15. So yeah, we're gonna go 15, 14. No, we're gonna go 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, like this. Okay? Standard array of stats. And when you're building this character, always take a look at your features and it will tell you what you get. So you get your fighting style and your second wind. Okay? So our fighting style is, we can choose anything. And we'll get onto that in a second. Second wind is a ability that we get. It's a passive ability. You have a limited well of stamina that you can draw on to protect yourself. So because we looked at our features and we know that we should have second wind, we need to go over to class features here. Okay, which opens a new box. And we need to type in second wind. And we add this to our fighter. Now we have everything we should have for our first level. We should have probably done this at level 1, but I didn't because I was bad. Okay, so now we've got our fighter features. We need to add our fighting style now as well. So is that in features as well? So fighting style, absolutely. So Fodrick, he's definitely going to be a melee guy. So I think he might want to be a great weapon fighting. He sounds like a great weapon kind of guy. So I'm going to drag this over into here and go great weapon fighting. That will add this passive ability in for you. And when your character, when Ben, my player, needs to know how this works, you can just direct him to his passive abilities. All right, so back over to fighter. What else do we need? Fighting style, second wind, and accent surge. So second level, we've got all that. Now we need to add our saving throws and our skills. Acrobatics, animal. So he's going to have athletics, and he's going to have survival, probably. So athletics and survival. Okay, so those are our proficiencies that we need. And you may get some more from backgrounds. Now, we don't have backgrounds here, okay? There are mods, there are add-ons that you can get, not through Foundry, but there are add-ons you can get elsewhere that will add 5e backgrounds in for you. But for now, we're just going to say that he took the... We're going to say that he took the... Knight background for 5e. Okay. Oh, noble. Sorry, that's what I meant. Noble. So he gets history and persuasion. Okay. And he also gets a language of his choice. So we're just gonna say he can speak Elvish too. Okay. And he is a human. Oh, we gotta add that. How could I forget? Race. Racial features. Human. So now he's a feature. He's a human. Okay. We are going to go variant. Do we have variant? No. We're going to go variant. So he's going to get a feat as well. Okay. He's not going to get the your ability increases by 1. We're going to look at variant human. Okay. Variant human. So let me just double check. I think you get 2 ability. Yeah. So you get a feat. You gain proficiency in 1 skill. So let's have a look. 1 skill. What does he want? He's going to go... Intimidate. 1 skill. He's going to get a feat. So, we go... Do we even have feats here? I don't think we do. Okay. So again, you can add those in, but you would add that feat. But to manually add it, it's no problem. You just add this new feat. You'll edit this, and you'll just put the description in. So, we'll say he has tough. It's a really bad feat to get level 2, but we're just gonna say he gets tough. Okay, and we're gonna add in the flavor for this. We can find it here. Like this. Okay. So there, he gets that. I don't know why it's white highlighted. Makes no sense. But he'll get that, and that means he'll get double his hit points. So that will be... No, he doesn't. That's not how it works. He gets, whenever you gain a level thereafter, your maximum increases by an amount equal to twice your level when you gain this feat. So he gets an extra 2. That would give him 18 out of 18. Okay. And that's how you add it manually. Absolutely same thing. I'll blast through this now. So he gets anything. So he's going to have plate. You'll just go down here. You'll grab plate. You'll pop it in there. Go into his equipment. He gets all martial weapons. So you'll say, give him a sword. Give him a great sword. He's a great weapon master. And then you'll equip them. Now, there's an add-on that will do this automatically. But you need... Sorry, there's an add-on that will apply the effects of these armors automatically. But you will need to do that yourself. Okay? So I believe plate armor just gives them like a flat 18 AC, right? Yeah, flat 18 AC. And a great sword, you don't need to do anything with that. You just need to roll with it. So once you've added in everything you need, we took a little bit longer on that than I probably should have. But once you've added everything that you need, you now have your character. If you've got a portrait for him, absolutely add a new portrait, and you do that by clicking, choosing a file, take that file and add it. Bish bash bosh, dead easy. Take the background, we are noble. Just finish this off. He's going to be neutral. He's going to be lawful neutral. And he is a human. Awesome. All right, so it doesn't have a biography because we don't have time to do all that. But you could add that in there, his appearance, personality, yada, 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 and then his backstory. He doesn't have any spells, and we got everything here. Cool. So, little primer on rolling as a character. All you have to do is if he wants to roll an attack, let's go over to our chat and our rolls. If he wants to roll an attack, all he has to do is press Greatsword. It'll come up like this, and you say, roll for an attack, just a normal roll, 6. That barely hits anything. If he got advantage on it because somebody was flanking or a spell, you roll at advantage, it would roll at advantage. Another note here, there is a really good add-on called Better Rolls for 5e, I think it's called. It will do a lot of this stuff and make it look very pretty. Remove a lot of the clutter. So that's how you roll. Okay? Literally, that's how you roll. So now, we've just built an entire PC. Easy peasy. Okay? So we'll close that. And we'll go over when your player connects into your Foundry game, okay, they will be in this screen. They will choose their character. Oof. Wait a sec. One more thing we've got to do. So back over to our actors. Fodrick now. You need to configure the permissions. You need to assign that character to Ben. So Ben is now the owner of Fodrick. So when Ben joins, so log out. When Ben joins like this, type in his access key, player configuration. I still want to be red. He's got a character, save configuration. His character's not on the field right now, but once it's on the field, he can't actually put it on the field, but once it's on the field, he will have control over that character. And I will show you what that means. So as a DM, you'll put his character on the field like this, and Ben will rejoin. And now Ben, playing Fodrick, and move his character using his mouse or his WASD or his arrow keys as well. All right, so there we have it. We now have a player character. Adding an NPC, super easy. Two ways you can do it. You can do it in the exact same way. So we're just gonna call this guy fucking enemy. Okay? Enemy. And he's a non-player character. He has a slightly different sheet because generally NPCs need a little less love. And you can spec him out as you wish, like this. Okay? So he's an enemy, but you can use exactly the same thing that you've just done. So you could say this enemy is a sorcerer. Okay? So he is a sorcerer now, features. That means he gets spell casting, so you can add a spell. I don't know what level he's gonna be. He gets Call Lightning? Don't know what. It's Call Lightning as a 3rd level spell. Okay? And exactly the same. You'll roll. You have no spell slots, so that's fine. You can still cast the spell, right? You can still cast the spell. And then it will give you spells will give you a template that you can use, and it gives you the radius of that spell. And when you click it down, that is the radius in which that spell acts. Okay? And you can roll the damage, you can select the saving throw, or you can place another template. Let's say you didn't place it down properly. Okay? So we roll the damage. 12 damage to anybody who doesn't make the saving throw, and half who do. Okay? Awesome. So that's one way. That is one way. Of dealing with that. So. Where's my... There we are. So now, in order to get that off as well, measurement controls should just go... So I couldn't click it there, because I was on character, basic controls, sorry. I'll go over to measurement controls, click it, and press delete if you need to delete it. Let's pop project back on the map. Now, the second way is you can just go into your compendium in monsters, and you can say, do we have a young... Yeah, dragons are always cool. So we've got a young red dragon. Now, it doesn't have a portrait. You can add a portrait if you want, and you can just add that young red dragon in. This young red dragon is chilling out in this house for some reason. You double click it, and you have a young red dragon stat block here. It's got 178 hit points and all of the things that you need. It's got an attack that you can use. You can roll it just like any of the other attacks. So bite, attack, roll, damage, roll. Oh, that's a natural 20. So when we go damage, we go critical hit. So 41. So that would be an instant death for Frodrick. Of course, if he's fighting a red dragon, that would be stupid. It tells you, or blind sight, dark vision. It's got all of the things that you need. It doesn't have spells, though the variant spell casting for dragons. If you wanted to add that, you can just drag in spells as you would that we've just talked about. Okay. So that's how you can drag them in like that from a compendium that you have. So there's a compendium here of the basic rules, I believe, and you can download more as add-ons. And then you've got rules as well. If somebody's like, hey, how do my background's right here actually. Oh, that's just right. That's just an example. But let's say, how does cover work? You can you can search for cover. You can open it up, and it'll give you a description of the basic rules for cover. Exhaustion, expenses, yada yada yada. You get it. Okay. So now we've added an NPC. So we've got a player character and an NPC. As a DM, now the last thing to get you going, the very last thing to get you going, is an encounter. So let's add an encounter. And all we got to do is go over to this fist right next to the chat, and we've added one encounter by pressing the plus. If you added it by accident, you just press the trash can, the garbage can, add it. Okay. As a DM, you right-click the NPCs that are going to be in combat, and you'll toggle this combat state at the bottom here. Okay, you'll toggle this combat state. Now, the player themselves, should they wish, can roll their own initiative. So I would suggest doing that, because that's what you should do. But if they're away or they've like had to step out, you can roll the initiative for them. So the young red dragon is the NPC. We'll roll the initiative for that. It got 18 for its initiative. Comes down here as a public roll. If you don't want to have it as a public roll, you'll say private GM roll. Okay, if you roll it using that default, it will be private. No one can see that. And that goes for every roll you do. If they can roll it themselves, roll it like that. This white box indicates that it was a private roll. It shouldn't be private, so you can reveal that to everybody. Okay? If you rolled it privately by accident, you can reveal it to everybody, or you can make it private again. So actually, Frodrick rolls like a god, and they are both going at the same time. In this case, Frodrick has higher dex, so he gets to go first, and that is shown in your encounter. If the young red dragon had higher dex, that would go first. Now, to begin the combat, to get your combat rounds going, you start combat, and that's that. You start at Frodrick. Frodrick will make an attack. Easy peasy. He'll say, dude, I want to roll with a greatsword. I'm going to attack. It's going to be a normal attack. Well, he'd move first. That's a 20. Which actually hits Frodrick. You god. Okay. So that means he's going to do damage. Just normal damage, 13. That's also a great roll for a level 2 fighter. So Frodrick is rolling like a god. But that's his round over. He does 18 damage. Young red dragon. What's the young red dragon gonna do? He's gonna fuck some shit up. Okay, so he's going to he gets bite and 2. Is that right? He gets. It doesn't actually say here, which is annoying. But I believe it gets 3 attacks. Might be 2. Either way, we're going to bite. Attack. Normal. 15. That doesn't hit. And then we're going to claw. Attack. That also doesn't hit. So no damage. Frodrick absolutely coming in super hard. So that was Frodrick. So that needs to be revealed. Reveal. Reveal. Okay, and that's that. Once everybody's gone in the round, you say next turn, and if there's nobody to go, it will start the next round. If everybody's paralyzed or something from the initiative order down, you can just say next round, and that will go to the next round automatically. This is good for tracking your combat encounters, not just generally tracking, but knowing the amount of rounds in combat can help you think that was balanced, that wasn't balanced. I think the DMG says 3 to 6 rounds is pretty balanced, or pretty common. So that's that. You now are able to install a game world, install a game system, set up a simple map, add a player, add a PC, add an NPC, and you know how to use encounters and rolling in the Foundry 5e system. As an end note here, the rolling commands, let's say if you have to roll yourself for something that isn't an attack roll on a sheet, or you're just rolling like a random d20 to see what happens, your DM rolls here, you can find the rolling commands in the documentation. View documentation. Okay. This just opens up a little iframe here. Dice systems, basic dice. So it runs you through /roll. So /roll, and that's how it works. So let's just go through that right now. So /roll 1d20 plus 5. Okay. If you had to roll something on a table, you can say /roll. /roll 1d is a 1d100 table for adventuring maybe, or wild magic. That's how you do it. Currently, you're rolling, and the reason this is happening, you're rolling as the red dragon. That's because you're in combat and you have it selected. Okay? It's a little bit of a downside because maybe you want to roll for wild magic. For a player that doesn't want to roll for themselves or whatever. Not much you can do about that. It'll come up as your red dragon. But when you're out of combat, so you end combat, yes. And you roll anything. 1d100. It still says you're the red dragon for some reason. What? Maybe I had to I had to unselect. I had to unselect the dragon. So I was selected with the dragon, so I had to just go on to another different action button there, unselect, and it came up as DM Joe. That's a bit of a quirk there. I'll probably submit that as a suggestion in the Discord for Foundry. Okay, so now that's literally everything you need. You've got your rolling commands and everything else. So this was well, I've actually recorded this twice now, which is insane. And they've turned out to be an hour each, or just over an hour and then just under an hour. And I've really tried to condense it down, but there's just so much to get involved with. So hopefully this is helpful from, sort of nothing to minimum requirements to play a game with friends. There is one caveat before I end this video. In order to play with friends, you are going to need to look at setting up, excuse me, where is it? Setting up, where is it? Is it under hosting? No. You're going to have to look at setting up port forwarding, okay? This was an absolute ball ache for me to set up with my router and internet service provider. It might not be that easy. It might not be that difficult for you. There are tons of resources online. A lot of people have struggled with this. A lot of people have helped on the Reddit and the Discord setting this up. What this does is it means that a player who you're playing with can basically connect directly to your computer into it, not to your computer, but to this program on your computer. Okay. And it can be a bit of a nightmare to set up. I've done it for other programs and it's not been that bad, but for whatever reason, this has just been weird for me because I had to do some weird things on my router to get it done. For you, it might not be that difficult. I hope it's not. So you've got all of the tools to set up your game ready to go. And then the last thing you got to do is set up a way of getting your players connected. The other way, of course, is, so we have to go back to documentation like this, is you can host it. So you can host it on your own Apache server, or you can host it using a host provider that Foundry actually endorses, and I think it is Foundry server. Okay, Foundry server. You can host using Foundry server or Molten hosting or the Forge. Okay. I've never used any of these. Or you can also use Windmill as well. These are what they sort of endorse to use. Now, I haven't used this. I've always used port forwarding, but I do know somebody who has used the Forge to set up. Okay. And it is supposedly quite easy. And the best thing is you can get 2 weeks, right? 14 days. You can play 2 sessions of D&D totally for free and see how it vibes with you. And then you can choose to get on to the pricing. So if I just go over to pricing, I'm going to just read it out to you really quickly. In US dollars, to get their Game Master sort of subscription tier, which is pretty good here. Let's have a look. Five gigabytes, so you get 5 gigabytes of assets quota, so maps and things like that. File limit per asset is 50 megabytes, which is very generous. You can create and launch your own game, install custom game systems, import games files from local computer, etc., etc. That seems like a pretty good dealio, and that's $4.49 a month. I'm not sure what that is in pounds because I live in England. It'll be slightly less than that, which is a really, really good deal. If you're playing with 6 people and it's like £3 something, you'll chip in 50 pence. You'll just PayPal or, whatever each other every month or every week, 50p. So every month, 50p. I mean, that seems like a no-brainer to me. So if that's the way you want to go, that's the way you want to go. If not, you've got literally everything at your fingertips. Thank you for watching, and I hope that this helps you get up and running and playing D&D on Foundry super quickly. And when I say quickly, I mean an hour or less. If it doesn't help, feel free to leave me a dislike. If it did help, leave me a like. If you've got some questions, please ask in the comments. I will probably answer them. Hope everybody has a great rest of their day, and enjoy D&D. I'll speak to you probably never again, because I don't know if I'm going to upload anything anymore from this channel. Peace.